Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Anish Gupta, and today is the start of a series that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm very excited for it. It's basically called the QB Whisperer. Obviously, if you guys watch the show, I'm always about quarterbacks. It's a quarterbacks league. I always talk about them. I'm basically the quarterback guru of the group, you could say. So each week, every Sunday night, as I'm recording this, is week 9, right after the Bucks Saints game, which we'll probably talk about in an episode coming up. But each week, every Sunday, I'm going to analyze a specific quarterback, look at what they've done throughout the year, even in the course of their career. I'm going to look at the good, what I think they're good is good about them, the bad, and what they can improve on. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to decide if they're a franchise quarterback or not. So the quarterback that I'm going to be starting with today, as you see in the title, is Josh Allen. Yes, I know. You guys know I like Josh Allen. I have a nickname for him, Joshua freaking Allen. It's not even that big of a nickname, but whatever. So, going back to Josh Allen, obviously, give a little bit of context, right? He's a first-round pick, 7th overall, comes in as the third quarterback drafted in a loaded 2018 class, correct? I mean, there's Lamar Jackson, right? Josh Allen included, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, and Sam Darnold coming in at the time, right? There were 5 quarterbacks in the first round, which we haven't seen much of usually in the past 10 years in terms of, that many quarterbacks being drafted that high. So the Buffalo Bills coming in were a losing franchise. They were consistently either last or third in the division. They came in that year, though. They did have a 9-7 record, right, with Tyrod Taylor, but they did lose a lot of pieces in free agency, mainly Stephon Gilmore. They didn't do much. There were a lot of people expecting a huge drop-off. Obviously, they got a little bit lucky with the Bengals beating the Ravens and that type of thing. So people were like, okay, this team is going to come back down to earth. So immediately, Josh Allen was thrown into low expectations, wasn't expected to do much, right? I mean, people thought, what is this team going to really do? Not much. So he comes in as a raw prospect from Wyoming, not the biggest football program, but let's talk about it, right? So his rookie year, obviously, it's 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, nothing much, but he did lead his team in rushing with 631 yards and I believe 6 touchdowns. So putting that into perspective, right? Like I think for me, there's always a game, there's a moment that gives me hope. So obviously, I didn't expect this Buffalo team to really do anything at the time. But there's always that little sliver of something that I can think, okay, maybe there's something to look forward to. And for me, that was actually week 3 against the Minnesota Vikings. And I think I've mentioned it multiple times. This was at Minnesota. This was one of the most easy picks I think people have ever made in a regular season game. It was a team that was 13-3 last year against, again, a Buffalo team that people didn't really expect to do anything. It was 0-2 to start the year, had a very terrible point differential and all of that. So it was at home as well. And Josh Allen comes out and shuts this team out and has 196 yards, right? 1 touchdown through the air and 2 on the ground. And one of the highlight plays, I still remember this, is when he hurdles for a first down on, I believe, a 3rd and 9 type of play. It was a 3rd and long, and it just showed me that, okay, this guy's pretty talented, right? I mean, obviously from a small school, I didn't know much about him. I was always focused on the Baker versus Darnold debate. Obviously, as a Browns fan, I was trying to determine who was better. So to see that, it was like, oh, okay, this guy has some talent. He has some potential. So coming in, right, that's where my Josh Allen fandom kind of started. So let's talk about the good. Obviously, like I said, his talent. He's got one of the best arms in the NFL. I could argue it's the best. I could argue he has the best arm. Obviously, my homeboy's got a pretty good one too. But he works best when he's out the pocket to the right. So when you can look at most of his highlight plays, especially that rollout to the right and towards the sideline, I don't know what it is, but he sees the field. He sees the right side of the field really well. That's why Buffalo does a lot of 3 wide receiver sets on the right, because they get receivers, going outside, keeping them in sideline routes, or just strictly deep crosses. I've seen a lot of that, even down the middle coming from the right. It helps Josh Allen. I don't know why, but it's just a tendency that he does, and Sean McDermott uses it really, really well. So I gotta give him the talent. That's one thing. His release is amazing. It's one of the best releases I've seen in the NFL. I mean, it's quick. It's a surefire target. He's got a laser. He can lob it at the same time, and that's part of his talent. I mean, and the third thing, obviously, his rushing ability. 17 rushing touchdowns his first 2 years in the NFL that I believe led the league for quarterbacks. He had 9 last year that led the league for quarterbacks as well. Um, so he finds the end zone, and he's a good quarterback to use in the red zone, which is very effective. It helps teams, and a key stat in team by team comparisons is red zone percentage. So the red zone percentage of scoring a touchdown versus a field goal. So he helps with that. There's been a lot of QB draws designed for him, so I got to give him that for his talent. So let's go on to something else called intangibles. Now, this is a very subjective thing. I will keep that in mind. At least I'm one for always going off stats and objectivity, but for me, intangibles means, are you a leader? Can I trust this team to roll behind you? And for one, I can. This team rides behind Josh Allen. They have faith in their quarterback, and you see it. This team went 10-6 last year, and there were a lot of people that said, "Oh, this defense carries them, right? This is a 10-6 team that Josh Allen strictly rode to the playoffs." But it wasn't that. It wasn't that, because there were games where Josh Allen, I believe he had 4 game-winning drives and I believe a couple comebacks. So this wasn't all the defense. Josh Allen still had to make plays. And despite having the most receiver drops of any quarterback in 2019, he still found a way to have some pretty impressive wins, right? And the Ravens, who were a 14-2 team who won 12 straight games, they had the 2 games that I say they were the closest in were San Francisco, where they won by 3, and Buffalo, where they won by 7. So Josh Allen was very competitive in those games, and you could see it. 20 touchdowns, 9 picks. Now, people obviously said, "Oh, he's not a deep ball thrower. He was very inaccurate. His completion percentage throwing pretty deep was very bad." That is all true. But again, it's a weird thing, and I put it in intangibles, but when you make the plays to win your team games, I give it to you. I give you the win. There's a reason why quarterbacks are always given credit when teams win, and they're always given blame when they lose. It's simple as that. And you can argue with me all you want, but that's how it is. And especially in the NFL, wins matter. It's how people get ranked. It's how people get compared. And I would argue that Josh Allen is creeping up to maybe being the best quarterback in this class as of right now. It's Lamar Jackson, but he's surefire second. After 2018, obviously Baker Mayfield was considered to be the best, but I think after 2019, I was sold on Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson being the top 2, and I don't think anyone can refute that, right? So his intangibles, I think he's a good leader. He gets his players ready. He's not even a coach, but I think he makes audibles, and especially I want to a little bit of a transition in the next thing is he is becoming a better and better quarterback, and that helps with you becoming a better and better leader. So the third thing would be his development. So most quarterbacks aren't supposed to be like a Justin Herbert or a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson. All these guys were coming in and lighting the league up very young. That's not how it usually goes. Peyton Manning had one of the worst rookie years I've ever seen. Russell Wilson didn't do much his rookie year. He was honestly carried by that defense for a decent amount of those first 2 years. And those 2 years, obviously, he got to the divisional round in 2012, and he got to a Super Bowl championship in 2013. So quarterbacks aren't supposed to be this electrifying, stunt right out the gate. Obviously, it's great to see, but it's not always the case. In fact, the majority of the time, they have a steady curve. It's a linear curve, and that's how they start to become better. Or a linear graph, not a curve, whatever. But for Josh Allen, obviously his first year, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, a 67 passer rating. Okay, that's not good, obviously. He wasn't an efficient passer, but he led this team to 6 wins, which, again, I was impressed with, and then goes to show his intangibles and his ability to still lead this team, right? His second year, I believe it was 3,000 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 picks, 85 rating. He still had, 9 touchdowns to the ground, so I go 29-9. Good year in my book, and he got his team to the playoffs, right? And another thing is, that playoff game, right? Back to the intangibles. I keep flip-flopping. I'll get better at this, I promise. But the playoff game, he goes up 16-0, right? And yes, he blows the lead. But I want to talk about the fourth quarter and overtime because, a lot of people blame Josh Allen for that loss. I don't at all, not one bit, because one, his offensive line collapsed. He had less than 2 seconds to throw, And the average quarter, like Tom Brady takes 2.8 seconds to get the ball out of his hand, and that is very quick. So I think it's the quickest in the league. Josh Allen got less than 2 seconds. I think it was like 1.8 to release the ball in fourth quarter and overtime. J.J. Watt absolutely dominated. Obviously, credit to him. But I go back to that lateral play. So Josh Allen, it's 16-19. I'm taking you there, right? And it's they need no timeouts. They need to tie it. He rolls right. He gets a clear shot for it, and he's about to get down, and he laterals it back. And I watched that play live. I was like, wait, hold on, what? I mean, what are you doing? Why are you throwing it back, risking a chance of something happening? But it did go out of bounds and basically gave him a timeout. So you can look at why he did it. You can question it. Did it work? Yes. What else does it show me? It shows me that he's willing to do anything to make the play work. He is willing to risk it all. He is willing to put his body on the line, right? As we saw when he converted 2 crucial third downs in overtime to keep the game going. He's willing to put his body on the line for his team. And that helps with his development because now he's becoming a better leader. And now we're going into year 3, which is usually the year that quarterbacks start to take a bigger step. So, year 1, you're here. Year 2, you're here. Year 3, you go up here. Year 4 is usually the time where people say, okay, we're set on this guy. We want to give him that franchise deal, right? So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Josh Allen to continue this development, and look what he's doing now. I mean, 87 yards through 9 games. So he's on pace for almost 5,000 yards, 19 touchdowns and 5 picks. That is very good, and it's 107 passer rating, which I'm very happy about. It just shows his development. I mean, his completion percentage has skyrocketed up 10 points. That's very, very good. And again, we're seeing it. More passing yards. Stephon Diggs has been absolutely breathtaking. They've been helping each other out so much, especially with the deep ball. And, I go back to this play that I just saw today, right? On 3rd and 6, he rolls out right. And like I said, he works pretty well. But, there are 2 defenders in his face, and he releases it so quick and finds Cole Beasley at the perfect spot. There will be times where you look at his accuracy and you think, he has some God-given talent because he does. And it's just he's becoming better and better. And sky's the limit for this kid. I really think so. At 24 years of age, like I believe Joe Burrow is 23, almost 24. This dude has already gotten 2.5 years of NFL experience on his belt. And he's only getting better. That is the best part about the good. Now, quickly going on to the bad, right? His decision-making at times. There's not much about, Josh Allen that I think is bad, but it's a little bit of bias. But his decision-making, he tries to make every play, right? So you will see him force some interceptions. You'll see him not look when he needs to the left. The left is his problem. I think he needs to throw more to the left, roll out to the left. But they don't need to. Again, what works is what works. So I think not making every play, you've got to be careful with that. Also, his ability to throw across the middle, I think, is very iffy. Rolling out to the left, that's another thing. I go back to the Chiefs game too, where he just didn't. There are games where he doesn't feel confident in himself, or he'll feel too confident in his arm. That tends to happen with strong arm quarterbacks. You think you can fire it in there in that tight spot, and it leads to an overthrow, it leads to an interception, or it leads to just a bad play. So he needs to be more careful with his decision-making, polish it up, but obviously that'll help happen over time. Now, the question obviously remains, is he a franchise quarterback? I say yes. Obviously, this would probably have been the year where they determine it. I think he's passed with flying colors so far, right? Knock on wood that he keeps doing it. And, I was told by a guy in the name of Jack Smith that he was the 3rd best quarterback in this division. I'm pretty sure I was right that he's the best. I'm hoping. And I think he's got the sky's the limit again for Josh Allen. Obviously, the Bills can build around him. They've already tried to with Stephon Diggs, maybe get a more consistent running back. Their defense is very good, but again, there's at linebacker they've got to step up a little bit. Same with the pass rush. Their secondary's been playing rock solid. But let's see what he does in the play. If this team makes the playoffs, which obviously I think they will, right? Let's see what he does. I think this playoffs is going to be very, very convincing for people. And I told people this in our. You'll see it in our contenders pretenders episode because we did record it before they beat the Seahawks. They're like a wild card, not a wild card team, but like a wild card. They're an X factor. This Bills team, we don't know what they can do, and I think Josh Allen. We're going to see a different Josh Allen in the playoffs than we did last year. At least towards the fourth quarter, and people won't blame him. I think we're going to see a better version of what we saw last year. I think this team could really make the AFC Championship. I'm very excited to see, and I wouldn't be surprised if this team makes a very impressive run because they have the quarterback to do it. He's got all the leader intangibles in my book. This team rides with him. He's got good chemistry with all his guys. He spreads the ball very well. And again, for a 24-year-old in Josh Allen, I give him the nod. Franchise quarterback. He's got a lot of good. He's got some stuff to work on, no doubt, right? Be more consistency also a little bit with him. But hey, is he a franchise quarterback for the Buffalo Bills? I say yes. So to kind of wrap it up, I think it went a little bit long, but this was my first episode of the QB Whisperer. Please give me your thoughts on it. I mean, I was very excited to do this, especially on a quarterback that I like. I'm going to do more. I'm going to do some that are not, I'm not going to do all the stars. I'll try and fit them in there, but let me know what you guys think. Anything you disagree on, anything you liked about this, maybe include more stats. Please let me know down in the comments. Follow all our socials down below in the description. Instagram is going to be down there as well. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.